Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. I'm Ryan Linklater. I'm here with my co-host Brady Penn. We're back on the Blitz Angle tonight. And hey, Brady, we had a great football night on Thursday, which is surprising to say some weeks, but here we are. Great division rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. And we had the Ravens winning this one by 1 point, moving on to 7-3, and the Bengals dropping to 4-6. Brady, what are your biggest takeaways from the Ravens win?
I'll start on the Ravens side of things. I texted you this during the game, especially if they get a top two seed. I think this is the case, but Lamar is like putting together an insane MVP case, and Burrow statistically is matching him. Josh Allen is right behind him. Burrow is matching him statistically. The wins aren't going to be there for him. Like right now, it looks like Lamar Jackson versus the field for MVP, and he had another great night tonight. They had a slow start in the first half and then just got off to an absolutely torrid second half, scored touchdowns on four straight drives. Lamar was great at extending plays. He was accurate. He was decisive. I was really impressed by him. And then on the defensive side of things, the number one priority right now is to make sure that Kyle Hamilton is not out long term. And if he is, like, it is a very, very bad news for the Ravens, a team that was already struggling against the pass. They have a great run defense, but that pass defense is not up to par and certainly not where it was last year. And I think that they did not involve Derrick Henry enough. And when they did, I think the Bengals did a pretty good job of slowing him down. On the Bengals side of things, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase had another really good game. Joe Burrow was great. He was under pressure a good bit of this one. Jamar Chase just seems to have his best games against the Baltimore Ravens and also seems to get a ton of yards after the catch against them as well. I texted you that as well. I mean, this Bengals defense, they just kind of fell apart in the second half. They had a good effort in the first half. They played well, I would say, and they just didn't get anything going. They weren't getting a ton of pressure on Lamar, and when they were, they weren't able to finish the play. Lamar was getting out of sacks, extending the play, and I mean, for the Bengals, you got to be pretty close to perfect the rest of the way, and it's not necessarily fair. You've lost three really tight games down to the last minute now to the Ravens and Chiefs, which obviously is a really tough matchup for anybody. But you're at the point you're gonna have to put up or shut up if you're the Cincinnati Bengals the rest of the way. I do still believe that they're getting in, but they just keep making the margin of error slimmer and slimmer.
Yeah, on the Bengals side of things, they mentioned before the game, their wins this season are their combined records 8-28 this season. Not too great for the Bengals, obviously, but man, Joe Burrow played awesome tonight. He was amazing. He was getting hit every play still and still making plays and coming back. And I mean, Jamar Chase is the best receiver in football against the Ravens. It's not even close. Just against the Ravens, Justin Jefferson, overall, I'd take him over Chase, but Jamar Chase went off, won people a lot of leagues, and then anybody who had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase today in fantasy football, congratulations. You are off to a great start in week 10. And if you guys are playing against them, I'm very sorry. I'll try to give you guys some boom picks in the sit list, but until that point, just sit tight because it's going to be a long week in fantasy if you're playing against those two. It's really tough for the Ravens to understand the concept of double/triple teaming Jamar Chase and Marcus Williams understanding simple coverages as an NFL safety. So you'll see Jamar Chase just happen to go up for 150 basically every game against the Baltimore Ravens, which never makes sense to me. I mean, he's the only T. Higgins didn't even play in this one. And Jamar Chase still managed to go for over 200 yards, have a bunch of touchdowns, and just shred the Ravens. Like their game plan against Jamar was horrible. That's on Zach Orr, and that's on the secondary for not executing a better game plan that Zach Orr provided. So both those are definitely concerns for me going forward. But on the Bengals side of things, I'll keep to that right now. Defensively, that was pathetic in the second half. They did a great job in the first half of, I mean, Lou Anarumo had a perfect scheme. It literally looked like how Steve Spagnuolo plays the Ravens, right? They're stacking the box, they stopped the run, and they were basically just running outside edge rushers and kind of holding Lamar in that pocket long enough and making him throw at times. And it was working. It worked really well. Only 7 points at halftime. In that second half, their secondary couldn't tackle. Like it was disgusting watching them try to make a play. And we saw that touchdown by Wallace on the side. And just Logan Wilson jogged, Cam Taylor Britt jogged, Geno Stone jogged. Like they're fighting for their playoff lives, and their secondary is just jogging to make a play. Like it's gross. It's disgusting. It's just sad to see the effort that we saw to the defense. And Joe Burrow, you're right, he's playing MVP level football right now. And unfortunately for him, that defense stinks. And Zach Taylor, his job's on the line because of it too. He actually, I was not mad that he went for two. I think when you saw the Bucks not go for two and then wind up losing in overtime, you're just thinking 3 days later, yep, we have to go for two. We don't want to give Lamar a chance to potentially go walk us off on a game-winning field goal. We want to be on the offense here, go for two, and it just didn't work out. I'm not blaming Zach Taylor for that, but he is on the hot seat for their slow starts
Let me
and being in
stop.
this position.
Let me stop you right there real quick. I don't blame Zach Taylor for the decision, but I blame him for the execution on it. I think that the first play that they lined up for, you had the perfect look. Even Herb Street said it. You had Jamar Chase one on one. You're not getting a more advantageous look than that. They had him one on one either for a slant or a fade. And if you're going for two, the way that Jamar Chase is playing, that's the only guy you're going for. Instead, they overthink it. They call timeout. They give the Ravens a chance to draw up what they want to do defensively instead of being caught off guard like they may have been on the first. They might have thought that the Bengals were just going to kick the PAT. Bengals all of a sudden come out, line up to go for two, shift Chase over, and have a motion that leaves him one on one, and then you call timeout, give the Ravens a chance to regroup, and you go to Mike Gesicki over the middle of the field instead of looking for Chase out of the slot. It just made no sense to me, and Zach Taylor continues to, in my opinion, make really bad coaching decisions, and if they don't make the playoffs, he is going to be out of there, and for good reason. But I do want to, I'm going to let you finish what you were saying in just a second. I do want to point, like you're saying with Joe Burrow playing MVP football, aside from the Patriots and Eagles losses, here are their point totals in their losses: 25, 33, 38, and 34. So, like you said, the defense just has to be better. But Zach Taylor, I didn't like the practice there or the execution on the call at the end.
And I'll stick with this as my last take with the Bengals. Right, we mentioned Taylor. Taylor is supposed to be a leader of men. Right, that defense is not playing hard enough right now. And Lou Anarumo, I think he's a good coordinator still. Zach Taylor, those two guys need to fire up this unit more because they aren't playing with any sort of effort right now. And one of the things you'll see, like when the Bengals play the Chiefs, their defense flies around. They play a little cocky and they play better because of it. You watch them tonight in one of the most important games of their season. They're just jogging to the ball, letting one of their teammates potentially make a play. Oh, if they miss, oh no, it's an 86-yard touchdown. Like it's just not going to cut it for a defense that lacks a lot of talent. On the Ravens side of things, their defense frightens me. And to think about like if they want to make a Super Bowl run this year, it's going to have to be that secondary playing better. If Kyle Hamilton's out for an extended period of time, they honestly, I don't know, dude. It's going to be sketchy for them in the playoffs facing Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, potentially in those playoff matchups if they don't have their safeties. Like Marcus Williams shouldn't be starting in the NFL anymore. Like Nate Wiggins, Marlon Humphrey, not that good this season at all. They added Trey White. We didn't see much of him tonight. And then one of the things I'll say on offense, when they get away from the run and they get a little pass happy, that's when you see their offense stall out. When they stall out, are you going to be able to beat a team like Buffalo and Kansas City if they get up 2 scores like that? Like those are going to be tougher matchups than the Bengals the Bengals defense let them back in that game. The fumble by Chase Brown didn't help, but after the halftime, they showed no resistance.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you, and it is interesting with the Ravens in terms of matchups because there are some things that are favorable for them, some things that aren't, and specifically with the Kansas City Chiefs. Because I think that despite the way the Chiefs' offense has looked, I think that the Ravens' defense would give them a ton of opportunity to go deeper down the field than we've seen them. But at the same time, if they did stick to their bread and butter of running the football, that is the one strength of this Ravens defense is stopping the run. They're top 5 in stopping the run. I believe they're third in rush defense EPA. So it would be interesting. And I do think that once it gets to January, there's going to, if they are to make a run, there's going to be one game where Lamar just has to do what he did tonight and just make the offense keep putting up points and just outscore somebody. And that seems like a recurring theme for a few of these contending teams, including the Detroit Lions. I know their defense hasn't really gotten exposed yet, and Zadarius Smith should help, but I feel sort of similarly about them. But we'll see with the Baltimore Ravens. I still think they're in a good spot. They're 7-3. They are right behind the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe actually they're statistically tied right now, or at least half a game behind. But
Yeah, they're half a game back right now.
If the Steelers lose to the Commanders, then it's a tied up division, and I do believe that the Ravens, regardless of whether the Steelers win this weekend or not, are going to end up pulling
Yeah,
out.
I think a lot of people can agree that the Ravens are going to take this one. I was actually thinking about, man, if the Ravens drop this one, do the Steelers actually have a shot
They
at the
would have only
division?
been a game up on Cincy if
Could
they
you
lost.
imagine, like, being a divisional winner would kind of stink, like a wild card of Baltimore, Cincinnati, and the Chargers. That's a tough slate of
And
wild card teams.
that's what's going to be tough for the Chiefs. Obviously, nothing's too big for the Chiefs, and nothing is daunting for the Chiefs. But say they get the number one seed, Cincinnati sneaks in as the 7, and then all of a sudden you're the Chiefs looking at a surrounding divisional field of Baltimore facing off against Buffalo, and then you've got to take on Cincy and Arrowhead in the divisional. It'll be interesting. I personally, just as a football fan, I'm hoping those are the 4 we end up getting on divisional weekend. I know we're still a couple of months away from that, but I think that that would be epic and probably I don't care about Cincy's record. I believe that's still the 4 best teams in the AFC.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we wind up getting at the AFC. Let's just leave this show at this. Lamar Jackson is well on his way to that third MVP. I mean, there's
Oh
just
my
the
gosh, dude!
defenses are showing little resistance against him. Like
Look, the one
he's
thing
just what?
he is way better than he's ever been against the blitz. He is doing phenomenal against the blitz this year.
Yeah, he's been one of the things that's impressed me about Lamar is like he is maneuvering the pocket and manipulating the pocket as a thrower better than he ever has in his career. And it's working out well for the Ravens right now because they're getting a lot of man coverage looks and like wide open throws just based off of their scheme. And one of the things that I was talking to you about is like the reason why the Ravens like have these drives where they kind of stall out, get away from the run. It just the Ravens don't have a very diverse system like some of these other teams around the NFL. Like their offense is very cookie cutter. It's going to be pound. We're going to pound the rock. We're going to run a few read options here and there, and we're going to run a vertical passing attack. And hopefully, we're going to have an advantageous passing look when we have that attack. And if it doesn't work, Lamar just go scramble, get a few yards. Like it's very simple what the Ravens do. It's just a matter of a defense being talented enough to be able to stop the run, then worry about Lamar Jackson, and then worry about the play action pass. And that's just hard to do with the talent the Ravens have on offense this year.
100%. And Lamar in these 2 games against Cincinnati, 727 total yards, 8 touchdowns, and 0.34 EPA per play. Like he's been otherworldly. Even in that Browns game they lost, I feel like he was pretty good. Chiefs game opening night, it was a slow first half, and you saw Lamar get going in the second half. There's really been very few moments aside from that Raiders game that Lamar Jackson has not looked phenomenal this year. And I think that the reason that the Ravens still have a chance to compete in the AFC is because of Lamar Jackson and because of the improvement we've seen from him. And we talked about this the other night on the show. We have to see if it comes in January. That's really the final test for Lamar Jackson is success in the playoffs. But he's playing on another level right now, and it's really cool to see for a guy that at this point has consistently defeated almost all of the narratives around him except for that Super Bowl one.
Yes, sir. We'll see what happens come January time. But hey, we really appreciate you guys tuning in to this episode of the Blitz Angle. Hit that subscribe button down below and stay tuned for our Saturday picks. Turn on notifications, and we'll catch you guys next time.